Alright, there's been enough hype about the new packs and all the new decks and, everything that's so powerful in the meta these days, like Tearlament Sprite, Bestial Branded, Dragon Link, etc. I think it's time we take it back to one of the decks that have been kind of forgotten about in MATHMECH. And this deck can still do work, despite Grave Shufflers and Bestials and all these things being around. And I'm going to show you that here against a Labrynth deck. Clearly, I mean, look at the person's avatar, their name, and set 5 pass going first. We're going to be able to see if we can break this board, which you might think, wait, it's just a set 5, a Duster beats them. Yeah, maybe, but they have interactive traps that they're going to be able to use. They've opted to let me get this far, and this is a question that often comes up when you're playing against these decks that focus on interruptions. It's like, when do you actually choose to interrupt? So this opponent actually opted to wait until I built a bit of a board before they started to commit any interruptions. Clearly they have something, right? But we're going to be able to get the circular on board now and the search off of Labrynth. And unless they had an imperm, they couldn't really stop this. Like a Tears of the Overroot or anything that would like destroy or remove this from the field would not negate its effects. You essentially need an imperm, right? So again, like Compulse and things like that wouldn't stop the Labrynth from resolving its effect. You either had to stop before the Xyz summon happened, or unless you had an imperm, save it for when the Labrynth hits the field. So the opponent does reveal the Compulse, and they're going to target the Lingaribo, which they know can negate a trap, and so that's exactly what we do. Maybe a bit of a misplay. I should have just let it get Compulse back to the extra deck because I can just bring it back out. But yeah, I was just like, whatever, it doesn't really matter. The opponent chains Big Welcome, and we're going to chain Max C in order to draw 1 basically, and then the opponent reveals Dogmatica Punishment to out the MATHMECH Circular. Now the Circular will still resolve its effect. So again, the opponent waiting this long, not expecting me to have this many extensions, allowed me to kind of set up a little bit of a combo here. And this is good for me because, I've outed 3 of their 5 interruptions here. I know they have Silver in hand now, or Lady Labrynth with the Silver Castle in hand. And we're still able to set up basically our turn, which, we're not going for an OTK, but we are setting up the Super Factorial to control the matchup. So MATHMECH, normally a Cyber's combo deck, becoming a little bit of a control deck here. You're going to see me go into Laplation on my turn to out a back row card and the card in the opponent's hand. They do chain Tears of the Overroot, and because they activated a trap, they are going to be able to bring out Silver Castle here, and that's fine. The Silver Castle will survive, even though Laplation is non-targeting. The effect to resolve already committed to back row in hand. I won't be able to choose the monster on the field. So I will out their back row, which is good. But I won't be able to destroy or send a card in their hand, I should say, to the graveyard. So the Max C allows me to draw again, which is good. I out their back row, which is a Trap Tricks, and now I've outed all 5 of their cards in the back. They've got a draw, and they've got a Lady Labrynth here. So during draw phase, I'm going to activate Super Factorial, and what this is going to allow me to do is basically rip the entire opponent's field and hand apart. Because off of Super Factorial, they can set a card off of Lady Labrynth unless they top deck Coup Clock. But even if they did, I don't think they can interrupt because the chain is resolving. So yeah, Lady Labrynth resolves to set a card to the back row, and then Super Factorial is going to resolve to summon NXZ summon right away into the Laplation, which will now detach 3 materials on a new chain link since I have priority. Detach 3, and the opponent is going to chain Big Welcome now that we pass priority to them. That's basically the only interruption that they have, and that's totally fine. Spin back the Laplation to the extra deck, because I'm going to be able to discard the card in your hand, or send it I should say, non-targeting send the Lady despite you having a set card, and send the set back row that you set off of Lady during the turn. And just like that, I talked about this in my Labrynth video, which I probably linked somewhere in this video, either the description or at the end of the video or something. But Labrynth is a control deck, and it really does rely on setting up its engine in order to maintain card advantage and basically destroy your resources. And we basically turned the tables on them and did the opposite. Alright, in this match we have the dreaded MATHMECH versus Tearlament matchup, and Tearlaments was one of the decks that really killed MATHMECH because of the Grave Shufflers, right? Them using the Ishizu cards. Well, I shouldn't say Tearlaments, but it's more when the Ishizu cards came out. But in Master Duel, the Ishizu cards came out before Tearlaments. But regardless, this is still a bad matchup, and the fact that Bestials are now in the game as well, and Tearlaments plays Bestials themselves, and Super Poly, which, most of my cards are Cybers and Light, this is a really, really bad matchup. But what I'm going to show you here is that sometimes with Cybers decks, you have different lines of play where you don't always need to control the matchup, because I know that's what a lot of people think of when they want to play this game in general, is that like, I just have to out-resource my opponent. You know, they have a better board than I do, I have to break their board, etc. Well, that's not going to always be the case, and Tearlaments does have some glaring weaknesses that we're going to point out and exploit in this matchup here. So the opponent basically is getting like full combo. They're on like a small branded package even. Yeah, they're just popping off like every possible extension. I think they almost have every fusion here. They've got their Time Thief Redoer in rotation. They've got Rukalos Elf, Sullick. Yeah, like it's a pretty oppressive board. Plus they probably have Bestials and or hand traps, right? So let's see. Yep, start of the turn, they're going to standby phase, grab the Parallel Exceed, and we're going to start off with the traditional circular. And this is the worst feeling, right? The opponent goes full combo, and then during your turn, they just drop the Max C, right? Full combo and then Max C. It's like, you know, it's the opposite of what Max C is supposed to do in this format, right? Where Max C is supposed to stop the combo decks or give you some resources to fight the combo decks with, but hey, the combo decks are using them too, right? Thankfully, we do have the Call by the Grave. However, of course, I didn't actually clue into this until the guy did it, but I'm like, oh, he's elfing to dodge the banishing of the Maxi. So by elfing back the Maxi and not the Merly, my call by doesn't resolve, therefore the Maxi effect resolves. He's going to draw cards on every one of my special summons, right? What an interesting interaction that I learned in this matchup here. So yeah, every time we special summon, and obviously Cyber's deck special summon a lot, the opponent is going to be drawing cards. So what's going to be the plan? I can't pass, right? I can't pass on nothing, I just lose. So Maxi is forcing me to try to find a way to go for game here. The opponent has the Sullick, they're going to negate the circular here. So again, just terrible all around. I'm getting interrupted, I'm under Maxi. The opponent has a pretty strong board that has still some interruptions. We're going to summon the Multiplication and go into the Final Sigma. And then with the Multiplication going to the graveyard and Final Sigma in the extra monster zone, we are then able to boost up the attack to 6,000. And this card does double battle damage when it attacks a monster. So 6,000 minus 14 times 2 was 9,200. And despite the oppressive board that the opponent put up, we're able to push through and just beat over the elf for a game, despite the opponent being in total control of that matchup and having all the resources. That's the power of what the Cyber's decks can do sometimes. In this matchup here, our opening hand is Ash, Parallel Exceed, Call by the Grave, Infinite Impermanence, and Cyanide Conflict. So we have no engine to get started with, and the opponent here starts off with a normal summon Diviner. We know they want to pitch a Shizu, either Shuffler or Miller, probably a Miller in the Yugioh or Kelbeck, so we are going to imperm that. Now this card only does it on summon, so even if we can't out this card, which doesn't look like we're going to be able to because if we drew Maxi for turn, we just have to pass and hope that this set call by can do enough work to get us back into the game. So the opponent is also kind of on nothing, which indicates to me that they probably either have a Haveness, otherwise they wouldn't have activated this Scream, and or other hand traps. We do draw the Circular, which is amazing, and this is going to dump the Sigma. We summon Circular, and then the opponent chains Maxi. I guess they wanted me to commit the Circular first, but it doesn't really matter. We're going to Ash Blossom to dodge the Maxi here because we want to save the call by in case the opponent also has an Ash Blossom. So we're going to go ahead and bring back the Sigma, and sure enough, the opponent does have an Ash Blossom, and this is why you want to sequence it in this way. They were basically on the same stuff as us, Maxi, Ash Blossom, so they were kind of no engine and just hand traps. But we're going to be able to stop that Ash and get the Circular Search here. Let's see, does it make a difference? Well, it's kind of iffy to search for Super Factorial because that's follow-up for next turn. And right now, given the setup, we probably should be aiming to go for game. So I probably should have brought Equation instead. The opponent does reveal, indeed, that they have the Haveness, so the read was correct because why else would you activate Scream? And we just have to hope that they don't mill something significant off of this Haveness here. And oh my goodness, they milled double Sharon and Yugioh. So that is really bad. At least we were putting them under Maxi. They're going to be able to mill 5 off of Yugioh, 3 off of the Scream, and also get a fusion with the Sharon here. And even worse for us is, yeah, we are also milling 5 and we lose. I guess it's not too significant, but we do lose our Equation, which is a 1-of. The opponent does hit a Kelbeck, a Sullick, and a King of the Swamp. So fusion materials, more mills, and a Searcher, so that's not great. So the first fusion is obviously going to go into, oh, not obviously, I guess they go into Rukalos using King of the Swamp there. Very interesting. But yeah, let's see what they end up going for here. So Sullick will search first. They search Merly. And you know, this is interesting. So the opponent used Sharon already. There's 2 Sharon in the deck. There's 1 Havness and 1 Merly now. So the opponent probably should have brought Sharon to hand, because you want to keep the 2 Merlys in deck for the chance that you can mill them. Because now you just have a 1 of chance of milling a Merly and a 1 of chance of milling a Havness, because you already have Havness on board already, right? So interesting. They do get the Grief. They do get a Grave Shuffler, which again is kind of the bane of MATHMECH's existence here. And then they are, now that they have a Tearlaments card on board, going to be able to Crime and stop the Alimbertian from bringing back a card here. We are going to be able to still somewhat extend though off of the addition and link off into Lingariba, which will allow us to extend with the Parallel Exceed, which is really good because otherwise we would kind of be stuck in the water here. And the Parallel Exceed is going to go into Update Jammer. Now this will allow us to attack twice. We normal summon Diameter, no effect because we don't want it to be negated and destroyed by the Rukalos here. So we just link that off and go into an Almirage so that we have extra materials to banish off of the access code to destroy cards. So the Update Jammer will allow the access code to attack twice and boost up to 2,000 more attack. We are lowered by 500 from the screen. I just pop the Diviner, and I'm going to pop the Scream because I'm anticipating the opponent doesn't have any more traps, and sure enough they don't. Or they've already used Scream, one of the two. And then Battle Phase, we beat over the Rukalos. I'm not sure why I didn't beat over the Havness as well, but we have the Signet Conflict, which is an Omni Negate, and we have the Super Factorial, which, again, not the greatest against Tearlament, but it can do enough to lower their resources and interrupt their plays if necessary. So the Conflict is going to be able to banish the Merly. The opponent realizes that they're on nothing, and they end up scooping it up. And we had Circular next turn, which would be able to dump a Multiplication to double the access code's attack. So yeah, we were getting the game on that one. GG's to the opponent.